So it's been a while since I've done a response video, and when I saw this video pop up on my feed about Digimon, which is a series I'm a huge fan of, I knew I had to see what's up. So today we'll be responding to a video by the OFC media called Why is Digimon Not as Popular as Pokemon? And let me just say, he's got a lot wrong here. But hey, that's why I'm here to correct him, so without any further ado, let's dive into this shit show.
Okay, so today we're answering the age-old question, why is Digimon not as popular as Pokemon? Now I'm going to give you 10 reasons.
Wow, I'm really excited to find out what those reasons are. I mean, they couldn't be stupid because that'd make this response video completely worthless, right?
The original concept for Digimon came from Tamagotchi.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
Oh, you silly little boy. You thought Digimon and Tamagotchi were the same thing, didn't you? Well, think again, my friend. While they may share some similarities, they are two completely different concepts. You see, while both were created by Akiyoshi Hongo, the concept for Digimon is nothing like Tamagotchi. One was developed with a focus on battling and adventure, while the other was solely focused on nurturing and taking care of a virtual pet. So, while they may have started with the same idea, they quickly went their separate ways.
Tamagotchi was a virtual pet game involving a small handheld device. People were able to take care of these pet monsters and keep them alive and feed them and whatnot. Now, if that doesn't sound very interesting to you, then you can see already the problem.
I fail to see any problem here. People have different tastes in entertainment, and while some people like Tamagotchi, others didn't. That's life. Saying Digimon wasn't as popular as Pokemon just because some people didn't find Tamagotchi appealing is just stupid. In reality, Digimon has its own unique features and charm that drew people in.
It was not nearly as popular as the original Pokemon games in comparison. When it comes to first appearing to an American audience, Tamagotchi was more popular with young girls, but not so much the boys, which is what actually motivated the company who made it to start marketing towards boys. And that's how they came up with the idea for Digimon.
Well, actually, that's not entirely true. While it's true that the original Tamagotchi did appeal more towards girls, it also had some appeal to boys as well. In fact, Bandai had plans to make a version for boys called the Otokochi, but the company realized this would get boring pretty quick, so they thought up a new concept that would be even more appealing. Thus, we got Digimon, which focused on battling and raising your monster to evolve. And while it did appeal more towards boys, wouldn't you know it, girls would also find it appealing too. So Digimon was not simply a reaction to the popularity of Tamagotchi. It was more of a continuation of the concept, combining the idea of having a virtual pet only with an element of battling.
Reason number 2. The entire story of Digimon's lore can be seen as all over the place. Most people don't want to look into several rabbit holes of lore involving time travel, gods of a digital universe, alternate dimensions, and more twists and turns.
I agree that Digimon has quite the complex backstory, and that's actually one of its good aspects. The world building and interconnected stories create a feeling of depth and mystery that keeps people hooked. Sure, it might not be for everyone, but there's a real group of fans who love how the series messes with typical story structures. So even though the story can be complicated, yet if you put the effort into it, you'll be rewarded with a rich experience that will make you come to appreciate everything this franchise is.
The third reason is parents' reaction to some of the content in Digimon. Now, Digimon sometimes had guns on the screen, it sometimes had blood on the screen, it sometimes had occult references on the screen. For those of you who might not have seen that, yeah, you might want to look into that.
Alright, let's be real here for a second. Yeah, Digimon had some stuff that was a bit more grown up, like guns, blood, and occult references. But remember, the show was mostly made for older kids and teenagers. And guess what? They did it in a responsible way, so it wasn't super graphic or anything. And seriously, if the parents were so damn worried about this, then they should not let them watch Pokemon either, because guess what? That show had all those things too. So it seems like they're being total hypocrites. But hey, what do I know? I'm just here for the laughs and entertainment.
And the fourth thing is, some of the monster designs were super sexual. Imagine you're a young boy, and your parents happen to see you watching Digimon, and then this shows up on the screen. Yeah, that's gonna be an awkward conversation. A real awkward conversation.
The images you're showing don't display any sexualization as far as I'm concerned, perhaps in your dirty little mind. While some of these Digimon designs may seem questionable, but there is nothing of a sexual nature happening. Furthermore, Digimon was created with the intention of appealing to both younger and more mature audiences. Compared to what can be found in hentai, which is genuinely sexual in nature, this is very mild and not even worth complaining about.
Some of the Digimon designs were hated by viewers, not just for some of them being sexual. No, some of the designs were just hated because they thought the designs were ugly or not very interesting. They just hated some of the designs. I'm pretty sure they even made a design where it was just a giant piece of poop. That was a Digimon, a giant piece of poop.
While Digimon may have come up with some questionable creature designs, let's not forget that Pokemon had some pretty questionable designs as well. Take Jinx, the Pokemon that was criticized for its resemblance to blackface. And let's not forget about Mr. Mime, a humanoid creature that many found creepy and unsettling. And you complain about a Digimon being a pile of poop when you have Muck, who looks like a pile of shit. Yes, there are some shitty designs for Digimon, but to say that's the reason why it wasn't popular makes you sound so stupid.
Digimon has changed up its story formula way too often, which has been off-putting for some fans. It seemed like the writers could not agree on anything, so they just kept changing directions, leaving viewers irritated. There are seasons of Digimon that people absolutely hate, because things that they loved were suddenly replaced with other things.
I agree with part of your point. Digimon has had a lot of changes in its storytelling, and I don't like some of the later seasons, the worst one being Hunters, which is so disconnected from the original concept that it feels like a completely different show. However, it's important to recognize that not every season of the Digimon franchise has been universally panned. There are still fans who hold the original Digimon Adventure and Digimon Tamers in high regard due to their gripping narratives and well-rounded characters. So even though there have been a few stumbles along the way, it's a bit disingenuous to call Digimon's narrative structure inconsistent, given Pokemon would also be guilty of this. In the early seasons of the Pokemon anime, Ash Ketchum, the protagonist, does not exhibit any significant character development, and the same can be said for most of the characters in the series. It wasn't until near the very end of the series that he actually got his progression after finally becoming a Pokemon League champion. Whereas Digimon, on the other hand, has at least a bit more consistent narrative structure, with the main characters consistently growing and evolving throughout the series.
Digimon unintentionally separated their fans into subgroups. Fans who only like certain aspects of Digimon, fans who only like certain games, and fans who only like certain seasons of the Digimon anime series. Yeah, they split up their own audience into different subgroups. That was a problem.
Listen, I know some people get bent out of shape about different subgroups in the Digimon fanbase, but personally, I don't give a shit. It's a fucking franchise, so of course there's going to be variety. And honestly, it's kinda cool that there are all these different elements that appeal to different people. I mean, not everyone likes the same thing, and that's okay. So instead of bitching about it, people should be allowed to embrace the fandom however they want.
Reason number 8. The timing of the original anime release had people thinking it was a cash grab attempt to compete with Pokemon. It came out 2 years after the Pokemon anime had already been built and had a momentum growing and a fan base growing. People thought it was like, oh, they literally only made this to try to compete with Pokemon. It's like they were trying to do a great value version of another product. And that's not what they were doing because they kind of came out around the same time, but that's the way how some viewers received it.
Well, clearly whoever came up with that stupid idea about the original anime just being a quick money grab to compete with Pokemon just doesn't understand the bigger picture of the anime market back then. I mean, hello, anime was becoming more and more popular all over the world, not just because of Pokemon. So of course the creators of the original anime had their own ideas and goals for the story they wanted to tell. They were probably like, hey, let's make an anime based on this well-known franchise to capitalize on the ever-growing success of the anime scene. So they were simply tapping into a market that was ripe for exploration, and trust me when I say, it paid off.
Digimon evolutions have rubbed some people the wrong way because of two reasons. So this is like two reasons within one reason. I know that's kind of weird, but bear with me. Some find the evolution system overly complex because it branches into different directions. And another reason is others don't like how the evolutions don't seem to have any visual relationship with the previous forms. Like something will start off looking like this and then suddenly change to this. And it's like, yo, what? Like, how am I supposed to remember that? How does that even happen? Especially since they were already introduced to Pokemon first. So people are like, okay, this is like way out of left field. Like, this seems out of pocket to me. Like, what's going on here? Fans were looking at this like, yo, you doing the most right now. You are doing the absolute most.
The Digimon evolution system can be a real love it or hate it kind of thing for fans. For some, it can be incredibly overwhelming with all the different options and paths for evolution, but for others, it's what sets Digimon apart and makes it so appealing. Unlike Pokemon, where there's typically only one path to each evolutionary stage, the multi-directional evolution system in Digimon gives you so many choices. It's like you are choosing your own path, and that level of customization can be really satisfying. Plus the fact that this system mirrors real-world evolution, it's just icing on the cake. It makes you feel more like you're part of this elaborate, interconnected world, and it adds an extra layer of realism and immersion to the Digimon universe.
The games. Yes, that's right, you knew it was coming. You might have fast forwarded to this part. I'm not saying all of the Digimon games were bad, but many fans kept on being disappointed with some of the games that were released. Whenever Digimon started releasing games, many of the games were nothing like what people were expecting or hoping from seeing the anime series. And even for the players who did enjoy some of the games, it usually was not all of them. Some of the games were liked, and some of the games were hated.
Am I the only one who just noticed that this guy is the king of ambiguity? It's like he's trying to get away with not explaining shit properly. Either he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's intentionally holding back information. Either way, it's sketchy as hell and makes me question everything he says. But nevertheless, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I've played a few Digimon games. Like the one you showed, Digimon World for the PlayStation, which mind you was the first Digimon game I ever played, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but it got me hooked. But then came the sequels, and that's when they started to improve things. My favorite has to be Digimon World 3. This game took it to the next level by introducing dual worlds, where you can explore both the real world and digital world, which was fucking amazing. Plus you could customize and enhance the way you evolved your Digimon, which was a huge plus. However, the most recent one I played, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, is the best one yet. Sure, it doesn't have as many features as some other games, but it's solid as hell. The gameplay is top notch and the story is engaging. Plus, it reminds me of the Persona games, which I'm not complaining about. Again, this all goes back to personal preference. There are those who enjoyed the games and those who didn't. Yet just because some people didn't like the games doesn't necessarily affect the franchise, as there is a lot more to the franchise than just video games. But nevertheless, let's get to his final reason before we nip this bad bud off.
Agumon is far less marketable as a mascot than Pikachu. And just hear me out, Agumon has too much of a rough appearance. It's a dinosaur, but it doesn't look like a cute dinosaur at all. I honestly feel like they could have had a better mascot if they started off with Vmon. I feel like Vmon would have been a better mascot for Digimon, especially if they were competing somewhat with Pokemon. Some people might try to argue that Digimon was not competing with Pokemon at all. But when you look at their audience and what their audience was into, the age group and everything like that, it's like you're kind of sharing the same market here.
Ooh boy, this one's gonna be a doozy. Alright, so let's get one thing straight. Agumon may not be as marketable as Pikachu, but that's because Agumon is not a corporate shield like Pikachu. Pikachu's cutesy design and boundless energy makes them the perfect brand ambassador for Nintendo and Game Freak. But let's not forget that Agumon is a fucking dinosaur, and dinosaurs are badass. He's not just a mascot, he's a symbol of power and resilience. And let's talk about Vmon. Yes, he is cute, but he's not as iconic as Agumon. Vmon may have been able to compete with Pokemon, But Agumon was already entrenched in the hearts of Digimon fans. He's been there from the beginning, fighting alongside his partners and protecting the digital world. And let's not forget that Digimon and Pokemon are not mutually exclusive. They are two different franchises with distinct identities and fan bases. And sure, there may have been some overlap in terms of audience, but there's also a lot of people out there who love both franchises. And that's all I have to say. Listen, it's pretty obvious this person doesn't know their ass from their elbow when it comes to this topic. And don't even get me started on that video. It's a testament to laziness and incompetence, chock full of inaccuracies and half-truths. It's like trying to navigate a minefield with a blindfold on. But hey, let's talk about what really matters here. Whether you prefer Digimon or Pokemon, both franchises deserve our respect and admiration. They are like apples and oranges, each with their own distinct flavor and charm. There's no need to pit them against each other. Fuck popularity, enjoy whatever you want. This is PC signing off, and you all enjoy.